This is an RNZ podcast.
They say it takes a village to raise a child. I'm Kathryn Ryan, and here we draw on my conversations with experts on 9 to Noon to help you navigate family life. But now I think we head to Tongariro National Park, do we, Sash Nukada?
Yes, yep, that's my new hangout now.
We're saying be careful to children exploring the outdoors meaningless. Adventurer and educator Sash Nukada thinks so. He says so often people tell their children to be careful, but he believes it's counterproductive and can induce fear and make them risk-averse. He says it's more beneficial to explain what to look out for and how to avoid hazards when you're in the outdoors or at the playground. Sash Nukada works for the Sir Edmund Outdoors Education Tongariro Centre as the Tertiary Programme Manager. Welcome, Sash. Lovely to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Kathryn. Thanks for having me back.
Beautiful part of the country and a place, of course, where many adventures are had. But again, you need to know what you're doing.
Yes, yep. Interestingly, the careful word, we start with that, I guess. And I've been preaching to students for years about not saying be careful to their students when they're working with young school kids and things. And I just think... in a lot of ways, it's an epitome of that the message that we're sending to the kids that life is dangerous, to not take risks, not do anything, just stay in a safe zone. And so I've been preaching that for a long time. Actually, instead of saying be careful, I think I challenge people to just, what are you actually trying to say? And I guess. What we're trying to say is actually you want them to watch their feet, pay attention to what they're doing. I think that a lot of us parents, and I've been guilty of it when I first had kids, was, I'm saying be careful just to comfort myself. I'm actually not telling them anything, but just to comfort myself, if you get what I mean.
Be prepared, to use the old Scouts adage, or, have a plan, or have a great time would be a good start as well. What are the kinds of things you can say to convey the same message? And the message is, I don't want you to come to any harm, and I want you to be aware of the things you need to be aware of to minimise your risk of coming to harm. That's a bit long. So what are some of the things you can say to convey the message?
So there's a couple of things there, Kathryn. So in terms of the actual words, I just challenge, I guess, myself and my parents, who are terrible at saying be careful to my kids, and my parents are, and to students, like, what are you actually trying to say? And that's usually pay attention to what you're doing, if they're high in a playground or something, or back of a couch. You just want to actually, pay attention to what you're doing, watch your feet, and you can actually tell them what you actually want them to do. Usually it's like, pay attention to your feet, watch where you place your feet, or something like that, just being really specific to what you actually want them to do, what they can do to keep themselves safe. The other part of that, I guess, is that, I guess, as parents and as an outdoor instructor, it's our job to expose them to enough risk, an acceptable amount of risk, so that they can exercise judgment, but not to a dangerous amount of risk. And that's our job, really, is to keep them safe. But I think, at an appropriate playground, they should be able to, explore safely without us yelling out, be careful, be careful, be careful, every half a minute.
Words matter. We know that they that we internalise them, and that they can have a wider impact than just their literal meaning.
Yes.
And equally, if you are just saying be careful, as you say, is that in lieu of passing on useful information? Let's start in the playground, which is the first place where children begin pushing boundaries and finding out about gravity and finding out about what happens when you misjudge something. Let's talk about some of the things you can say to even quite young children to give them not only the practical advice, but the mindset that this is adventure and it's great to do, but I need to think about what I'm doing, or I need to assess the situation I'm in. What are some of the things you can say to even quite young children?
Well, I guess you can, you're with them in the playground, they're going up to an age-appropriate height. And, at a certain age, you can start asking, look, what if you slipped here? What if you fell here? What would happen? And I guess if they understand consequence, if I did slip here, what would happen? I'm going to fall, and they're going to be really sore. And I guess they still need to be a certain age to understand consequence. I think school age for sure. And what would happen? And I guess same with our students. It'd be like at this stage, if you were to slip, what would happen? Oh, okay, you would fall and hit the ground and really badly hurt yourself. So, okay, let's do something about it. So we can. The consequence isn't so bad. So I guess making them aware of that consequence, and I think that be careful word, Kathryn, is just. I mean, I guess we were told. Maybe we were told as kids. You hear other parents saying it, so it's just that natural reaction. It's not a natural reaction. You just copy what everyone else is doing because that's the norm to say be careful.
As you're building up this sense of adventure, whether it's in a playground or where it's in the outdoors, do you need to have a plan? And some people do this very instinctively, naturally. But for parents who, haven't spent a life in the outdoors or playing sport or being physical, what are some of the practical things you can learn to help teach and encourage or support this kind of their education?
I think if parents don't have their outdoor background, there's definitely clubs and scouts and things, and that can help out. And you can send your kids to scouts, and they'll get that sense of adventure. But also, I think, Kathryn, if you go back to a certain period, and I think people my age would definitely say that when they grow up in New Zealand, you reminisce about the old days. We can just scoot off to the local park or the nearby beach. And it's kind of like your parents know you're out there. They don't really know where you are, but they know that you're just going to come back when you're hungry and it's dinner time. And, I think that's still there, but it depends on where you live. Like if you happen to be near a park or a safe park or a beach, and, kids it's that free play that we some of us at a certain generation used to have. You go out, you're just exploring with your friends and you're building that judgment instantly, Not only that, but it's free play, it's initiative, it's judgment, it's decision-making, and you're building really great friendships with the friends that you're exploring with. So it's a multiple win situation, but it depends on where you live, I think.
And also, what are you finding about what's happening in schools? Because teachers are the other players here as well. And is that message also sometimes coming through the education system?
Yes, and it depends. I think it totally depends on school to school. Like I think a lot of schools are doing some really great things, and some teachers out there are really motivated in this area to have good school camps and get out there and do some EOTC education outside the classroom and kids learning outside. But then I've definitely seen some schools where they've chopped off all the branches on the trees so the kids can't climb the trees and can't play ball race, can't do anything that remotely. And I think it's that fear of litigation, fear of that side of things, which is unfortunate, Yep. So I think, outdoor education is slightly under threshold in the school system, I feel.
What happens? I mean, it's been a wonderful summer with most parts of the country getting good weather, and also, of course, with us being able to be outside and not, stuck at home under lockdown. And will there be a real momentum that builds up at this time of year?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, we've just moved to Taupo from Timaru, and there seems to be, and I'm working here in the national park, and there seems to be a lot of people out and about. But I guess, again, if parents don't have the outdoor skills, still encourage, anyone can take their kids to the local park or the local beach, local reserve, and just let the kids, have free play time in nature, and just not having to take them. I'm guilty of it. Always having to take them to structured things, to gymnastics or to karate or this or that, but just taking them to a park and letting them play and free play, I think is really beneficial. What
are the building blocks for children to gain physical confidence? We've mentioned the good old playground, but what are the other ways that you can build their own skill set, but also their confidence set?
Gymnastics, I think there's a lot of good in sports, and obviously sports, a lot of kids play sports, and a lot of parents want their kids to play sports because they see the multiple benefits, teamwork and physical health and etc. But I think, again, outdoor pursuits and outdoor activities and education, Kathryn, is just a really big can play a huge part in kids' development and the wider society. I just think through outdoor experiences, kids can potentially learn, not only being their best selves and learning good human and life qualities such as positive attitude, initiative, resilience, which are all topical things. Also, the well-being holder side of things, like children can get a lot of mental health is a huge topic at the moment, and there's a lot of benefits, well documented. Not only are you getting physical fitness and coordination and things from playing and exploring in the outdoors, but a lot of mental health benefits too. I could go on, environmental appreciation, kaitiakitanga, working with people of different backgrounds. If you're in an outdoor education setting, forced to acknowledge differences, find common ground and work towards a common goal. So there's a multitude of benefits, I believe, and physical being one of them.
Let's talk about that reticence that parents often had. It was interesting talking about the fabulous school initiative in Porirua. 6 schools all hooked up with the cycling initiative, and every single kid at one school had a bike. Every single kid, and they were out there and using them. With cycling, there's often a real fear and a genuine fear among parents about safety on the roads and about the drivers as much as the kids. What can you do to assess your own environment and work out what is a realistic activity for your kid to go out and develop their skills and develop their independence and develop their freedom? Can you do some planning yourself about that?
Oh, Kathryn, I think, that's a hard question. Again, it's very much dependent on where you live, isn't it? How you assess I guess it's a gut instinct thing, really. And, some people live in a very child-friendly area and other people just don't. And to take cycling for an example, I know of people that teach in Auckland and they happen to cancel cycling trips at secondary school because they're getting students that can't ride bicycles. And to me, that's amazing. But how can you grow up in New Zealand and not ride a bicycle? But then I drive around Auckland. Some areas I can totally understand why you want your children to bike. But then you go to a little rural, like Tūrangi locally, it's very safe for cycling. So it depends on where you live as to what and how. And I guess if you live in a very busy part of, say, Auckland or Wellington, and it is not conducive to kids cycling, you might just have to make and program that time in the weekends or after school to actually load the bikes onto your car and take them to a local bike park or a pump park, which is really, really safe to ride a bicycle. And again, I'll just mention, if that's all too much and too busy, maybe tap into scouts, a local climbing club, etc.
What are you hearing from teachers? Because we talked about the school system also having a part in this, but we know school pools are in decline. We know room for playgrounds is often being turned over to room for classrooms with schools bursting at the seams. And a lot of time and or money for, after school and sports activities sometimes prevents that happening as well. And are we seeing a decline in the physical confidence and competence of many students?
Anecdotally, I would say yes. Having been in the industry for 30 years, Kathryn, I would anecdotally say yes, and I think a lot of educators and teachers would probably agree. Yes, I think there is. I've had very little experience in the secondary space. So I'm not really qualified, but from where I'm sitting, it just seems like the cost and the risk factor, or the perceived risk factor of it, is causing a lot of schools to pull away or out of outdoor education, which is, again, a real shame, I think. I just think...
Are there legal issues as well? Because, of course, understandably, people want responsible health and safety, but has some of what's required made some schools balk, particularly at the outdoor activity end?
I think it's just unknown at this stage. The legislation that's gone, the Adventure Safety Act, I just think it's a little bit untested. A lot of people are just playing the conservative game, people are just a little bit unsure how it applies to school camps and what what would happen and who's liable if something happened at school camp. So I think people would rather not test the law or take the risk than actually you going down that pathway. I mean, as far as school camps go and things, I think, if they run well, which most of them are, they're very safe. For instance, with the program that I ran in Tongariro for 12 years, 80-90% of our incidents have to do with skiing and biking. Most people think skiing and biking are quite safe. Nothing to do with rock climbing, whitewater kayaking or mountaineering. Those had almost zero incidents. So there's maybe there's a misperception of how risky things actually are.
Is that another thing? As you say, there's a gap between the fears that people hold for their children and young people and the reality. It's not that something never happens, it's that actually it is likely to be very rare.
Yes, no, I absolutely agree, yep. And I think, I think people see, it's that classic, people see somebody, some kid got something happened on the way home from school somewhere, and suddenly everyone's driving their kids to and from school because of that one thing. But just to remember that it's very, very rare. And same with the outdoors. I think, as soon as there's one mountaineering accident, it's on the news. But keep in mind that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of mountaineering trips that go without anything happening. So yes, I think there is a misconception of what the real risk of certain activities are.
Sash, you made an important point. When we say be careful, we're often thinking about physical activity and potential physical risk or hazard. Your point is this is about hazard management, and it's about being in the right frame of mind and, as you say, being focused, thinking about what you've got to do. But the counter to any perceived risk or hazard is what's happening to our physical and mental health by the decline in physical activity or physical competence. Tell me about what your students are telling you in the new role in particular, what the new students are telling you about the role of their physicality and their outdoor life on their mental health.
Kathryn, students here haven't started yet, but the last year's one, it was interesting. We ran a new course at ARA called Haora and Wellbeing in the Outdoors, and it had incredible response from the outdoor students, the outdoor students, education students, and just that realisation of how much their mental well-being is linked to their physical well-being. But basically, going back to that, the Haora model of, there's 4 aspects of well-being or Haora that are linked: your physical, your mental, your spiritual, and your social. And I think it was a big realisation for them that, if they're mentally unhappy, it manifests itself physically, and if you're physically unwell, it can manifest itself mentally as well. And I think a lot of people are realising that that holds true, and how much the outdoors has to offer in terms of benefiting both your mental, physical, and the other aspects of Haora.
Thanks very much, Sash. We've just got a bit of feedback here that I'll read out and see if there's any questions for you. Cultivate instinctive situational awareness. What do you see? What does that mean? What happens next? What could go wrong? What's the plan of attack? Are they all good questions to ask?
Yes, I think so. Now, in making it age appropriate, but again, rather than saying be careful, it's like, pay attention to your feet, where you're placing your hands. What if you fall off here? And just you're making them aware of consequence and, I guess, appropriate action to minimise that potential consequence. Is teaching kids initiative, but if you can just let them explore on a beach, that free play again, like back in the good old days, quote unquote. That also builds that judgment as well.
Another's got suggestions, words like 3 points of contact. Is that branch as big as your wrist?
Yep.
Is that rock you're putting your foot on tippy? Where are you going to go next?
Yep,
because
absolutely.
They're encouraging the child to think for themselves.
Yep, and that's it, isn't it? You're asking questions rather than telling them what to do. Asking questions, and the kids are like, "Oh, yeah, right. Is that branch thick enough? Will it take my weight? What would happen if it broke?" Yeah.
And a fellow...
And Kathryn, I actually, in terms of the words thing, it's funny, one of my students, actually, ex-students from many years ago, just sent me a hat, and it said, she actually remembered me harking on about this word, be careful, and the cap that she sent me says, be dareful. I think that's kind of cool, actually. So, that's what we want our children to be, we don't want to instill fear. I just think if you say be careful too much, it just sends that message, life is dangerous, don't take risks, don't do anything, And it's like, what you actually want them to do is take appropriate risks, look at situations and go, how do I deal with this situation? And giving them that judgment, giving them that initiative and sense of exploration that, So that's what I think we all want for our children.
Another feedback here, there's a fellow outdoor educator called Paul, says there's a communication tool we use called funneling. We ask the kid how high up the tree they are, then, so what if you fell? What is your plan from there? So again, teaching them to make the assessments and make the calculations themselves and make the plan. I do like this one just to finish. At 16, my daughter rides to school in Dunedin. I got her to pass the road code and did lots of biking with her to prepare for the road. It's terrifying and good.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it?
Welcome to being alive.
Welcome to being alive, welcome to being a parent, we do need to, it's very, our kids scoot and bike home from school, and there's definitely a sense of vulnerability, but that's part of, I think, being me as a parent is there's always going to be that sense of vulnerability that I can't always protect them, but hopefully I've set them well enough that they can make the good judgment calls throughout life.
Sash, thanks so much. Sash Nukada, who works for the Sir Edmund Hillary Outdoors Education Tongariro Centre as Tertiary Programme Manager.